you. And the scary thing is that they didn't even own cue sticks anymore for that table.
Oh, man.
And, another night, Andy's in bed, and he hears kitchen cabinets opening and closing very loudly. And the next morning, his mother said to him, Andy, if you're going to be in the kitchen that night, please be quiet. So it's things like this that kept up over the course of a full year. And actually, the last thing before it ended was Andy woke up in the middle of the night with an itch. And when he turned the light on and looked at his arm, he had the tiny handprint on his arm, like a rash in the shape of a child's hand. And how this all ended was one day Andy's cleaning out his closet, and in the back of the closet he finds a loose section of wall, pulls it away, and behind it there's a crawl space, a very tiny crawl space that only a child could fit into. It's completely empty, though, and there's no trace of anything ever being in there.
Oh, my.
But ever since he found that crawl space, there haven't been any more incidents and no more sightings of the little blonde girl.
Richard, they kept the little kid in that crawl space.
I hope not. I really hope not.
I hope not either, but it sure sounds like it. It feels like
Happy
it.
Halloween.
Doesn't it? You too, my friend. Oh. Let's go to Concord, New Hampshire. Bill, east of the Rockies, you're on Ghost to Ghost on Coast to Coast. Hey, Bill.
Hi, George. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
I called about a month ago, so you've heard this story, but I'm going to recap it for your listeners and give you a little update. As I said, about a month ago, me and my friend were communicating over the internet with, via webcam, which is quite common these days. It began just like every other night, where we've, gotten on and said our hellos and our different greetings and whatnot. And just recently, I moved in to an apartment, and I have a roommate. And my friend knew this, that it was an older woman or whatnot. And so we were first getting connected with our webcams, and she said, who's the old lady? Kind of jokingly, I guess jokingly. It's kind of hard to tell, I guess, over chat. But I really did, at the time, I didn't really think much of it, I guess. And about 5 minutes later, after we were having our talks and whatnot, because I never really answered a question because I thought she might have been joking or something like that. And from the back of my mind, I'm like thinking, why'd you say that? 'Cause I just started getting this weird feeling. And I said, why did you ask about an old lady? And she goes, I saw your roommate behind you. She was just like, looked like she was watching what you're typing. I said, I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah, what roommate?
Well, my roommate was in the house, but my door was completely closed. There's no one in there but myself. And at this point, I almost start freaking out. The hair on the back of my neck starts, sticking up, and I'm looking behind me. I'm seeing nothing. At the time, she sees nothing either. But for a moment, she saw someone behind me. And honestly, I really do believe her. She's the sweetest girl there is. And after maybe about 30 minutes or so, she didn't really want to talk about it. That's the thing. After I told her no one was there, she's like, oh, I must have saw something.
It bothered her, didn't it?
Yes, it did. And then I started to ask her a little bit more about it, and then she actually kind of confessed that sometimes she sees things that other people do not see. Now, the odd thing to me, I've heard of this before, to be honest, I didn't think it was possible to see it over a webcam. And
you would think not, Bill. That's incredible.
The last time I talked to you, you gave me advice of, possibly researching or showing her possible family members. Because I actually thought I was kind of thinking that maybe it was my grandmother or something like that.
It's very possible.
And at the time you said, maybe I should show her a picture of my grandmother. Well, the thing is, actually, she's coming to visit in like a week, and she doesn't really want to deal with it at this time. So at this point, I'm keeping it quiet. And you're not going to show her the picture? No, I don't really want to stir things up. I think in a month I'm actually going to start researching on the area and possibly
why don't you kind of do this? Why don't you put the picture out kind of like on the table somewhere and see if she comes by and picks it up and looks at it?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that way you're not pushing it, but it's there, it's subtle. She may look at it and go, oh, my God, Bill, I know who that is. But do it like that. Let's go to our next caller. Let's go to Mountain View, California. Lynn, you're on Coast to Coast and Ghost to Ghost. Hey, Lynn.
Hi, George. Happy Halloween.
You too. Did you have a good time?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much.
Good. What's your story?
My story happened a number of years ago when I was a freshman in college. I was in the photo department, and this was the first night I was printing by myself in the darkroom overnight. Now, darkrooms, I'm sure you know this, but they're not completely dark. They have a safe light. They're either red or orange.
Right.
And they're also very hot. They usually have bad ventilation, so they have a fan. But after a while, your eyes adjust, so you can see pretty clearly. So this was the first time I was using large paper, which was expensive. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be extra careful. Focused my print. I put it in the developer. It was completely a blur. There was nothing there. I went back to my enlarger, did it again, made sure it was sharp, put it in the developer, completely blank. I went back to my enlarger the third time. Everything, all of my equipment was turned upside down, moved, stacked on top of each other. I know it seems like a cliche. So I printed it again, went to the developer, was printing my print. This time it was fine. But out of my periphery, I could see right to my right a black shape, a shape that was transparent but still black. And I thought, okay, it's just my eyes. Then I felt behind me something passing behind me, like that wind that you feel, over and over and over again. And I thought, okay, it's just the fan. Then I felt on the back of my neck absolutely that something was pressing against my skin and breathing on my neck with icy breath. And at that moment, I knew, just instinctively, somehow knew that I was in the presence of a ghost. I dropped everything. I screamed. I ran into the lobby. And we had a lab monitor that worked, not too late, but he was there for a few hours. And I told him what happened. And he said that he had heard footsteps coming down the hallway many, many nights, and no one ever arrived. So this just fueled my fear. I knew there was something in there. I got my things. I went home. I had projects to do, and I was just terrified to go back in. So the next night, I brought a friend with me. I thought that would protect me.
I don't blame you.
We're both printing, and again, the same sort of antics, passing behind me in repetition, feeling like there's someone on the back of my neck, things moving, and at one point I looked up onto the ceiling, and I saw this black transparent shape, and it was coming in through the door and out through the exit, around the ceiling, over and over in rapid succession. And I said to my friend, "Did you see that?" And we both saw it. And then, George, this is the freakiest thing. We looked over towards the entrance, and it materialized into a human shape. It was a blackish-brown, murky shape, and it was only from the legs down, like from the waist down. It was boots, and it looked like work clothes, maybe from the 19th century. And I could see through it, but it was still very solid, and then it just disappeared.
Gosh, that's a great story, Lynn. Ghost to Ghost continues in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Next Friday, I will be in Las Vegas. We'll be doing the program live out there with reporter Linda Moulton Howe. It is an incredible UFO crash retrieval conference. So come on by, because we've got a meet and greet there at 6:30 to 8:30, Friday, November 7. More information on all this in Las Vegas is at www.ufoconference.com.
Hi, I'm Joshua P. Warren, and here is my ghost story. Of course, a lot of people think about ghostly visions of the past, but you might be surprised to know there are lots of ghostly visions of the future. And this particular event actually played a role in me becoming a paranormal investigator. On my mother's side of the family, there were some really rough times living here in the mountains of western North Carolina back during the Great Depression. And in the mountains, my grandmother